Walmart is predicting higher prices and less availability. What does that mean for you and me? Let's dive into it. Hey, welcome back to another episode of The One Row. My name is David, and today we're diving into pricing, consumer pricing particularly. We've talked a little bit about this before, but today we're diving a little bit more because, well, retailers are now talking about the impacts of the tariffs, inflation, and some other things going on in the world. And I want to talk to you about some things, what that impact is going to mean, and then provide some ideas for things that you and I can do a little bit differently to try to be a little bit better prepared to absorb some of the these cost increases as they start to climb. They're going to expect to peak probably in June and July and then start falling, assuming that we don't have additional tariff issues. So as you know, I really don't want this to become a political channel. I'm not talking about pro-Republican, pro-Democrat, none of that. I don't want that to be part of what we're discussing. I want to take the reality of situations that we're in, whatever the reason is that we're in those situations, and talk about them and try to figure out how we can be a little bit better prepared to deal with those things. The whole thing here is that Walmart and other retailers are reporting that they expect to have much, much higher prices on certain products coming up in the near future with the, if for those that aren't aware, we are in the middle of a trade war with particularly China, but there are other countries that we are still trying to negotiate new tariff rates with. We have inflated tariffs from essentially everyone. The way that the administration did it was they said, hey, here's a big giant tariff on everybody, and then all the countries have then had to come to the table to try to negotiate those down to acceptable levels for whatever that country's definition of acceptable is. China said we're not negotiating, and we just kept driving the tariffs up. We raised it, they raised it, we raised it, they raised it, and it's like 135 some odd % tariff. And they've kind of decided to take that down on like a 2-month pause, which brought it down to like a 30% tariff. But tariffs are an additive tax basically for consumers. I know for you economics majors out there, you might kind of disagree, but the reality is that additional 30% tariff on those goods coming to the country has to be paid by somebody, and the companies might try to absorb some of that in the near term just so they don't have too much sticker shock with customers, but they can't absorb those forever. And at some point, it's the consumers that are going to have to pay that. Now, we can have arguments about, again, we're not getting into the political side. I know there's arguments about there's benefits of the tariffs and everything else. I really don't want to get into it, because the reality is that the tariffs are going to cause us to pay more in the short term, regardless of the long-term benefits. That's just how it's going to work out. Walmart has warned President Trump, as well as news outlets. Yahoo Finance reported Walmart prices are rising. Here are the products that could cost you more. And that's what I really wanted to talk about, is what those tariffs are going to impact your week-to-week grocery bill. Walmart is the largest grocery chain in the United States. They account for like 21% of the total grocery purchases across the United States, followed by, I think Kroger's second, and then Costco's third, something like that. Now, in the reporting, Walmart is not coming out and saying these are the categories of goods that are going to have prices rise. They're not divulging that. But most of Walmart's imports come from China, Mexico, Vietnam, India, and Canada. So if it's not made here, it's probably made in one of those, and all of those countries right now have increased tariffs over what they were before the Independence Day, or whatever President Trump called it when they started the tariffs, the new Independence Day. What kind of categories are we talking about here when it comes to rising prices? Again, Walmart didn't say, so we have to kind of extrapolate, but it's really, what do we import from those countries, right? So we've got electronics, we've got toys, we've talked about raw materials in previous videos, apparel, a lot of apparel made in China and Vietnam, footwear, sporting goods. I know a lot of the stuff you buy on Amazon is imported. And due to the timing of the tariffs and when all this is going down, they're predicting that there's certain seasonal goods that are going to be particularly expensive. Back to school equipment, products that you kids need to go back to school, clothes, obviously shoes, going into the fall. But they're also talking about stuff like Halloween costumes, Thanksgiving, Christmas type stuff. Now, they do expect that the current prices will probably peak in June and July, and then should slowly start to fall, assuming that this 2-month pause at 30-ish% tariffs with China sticks, and there's no additional tariffs and there's no escalation in the tariff war. And one other thing to factor in, particularly with a store like Walmart that has a massive stock, massive inventory, very diverse stock of products, is certain goods have a higher or lower, what they believe to be the customer price elasticity is what they term it. But really what that is what the increase in price that a customer will absorb without complaining. An example that they give in one article is the price of tomatoes. So if we import tomatoes from Mexico and there's a 15% tariff on those tomatoes, does Walmart believe that you're going to actually pay an additional 15% and buy those tomatoes? Well, Walmart may say no, and so what they'll do is they'll absorb that 15% tariff on tomatoes, but then raise the price on something they think that you are willing to accept, maybe a 5%. Maybe they take a bunch of, 3 other products and put 5% tariff, an additional price increase of 5% on those 3 products to make up that 15% that they don't want to charge on the tomato. So that is a game that they will play to try to keep things balanced and keep consumers from really getting too irritated at them. But the particular items that are very, very commonly imported that you and I buy at the grocery store all the time, coffee, bananas, avocados, flowers, they come in from Peru, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, other places in Central and South America, and all of those right now are facing 10% tariffs. So you're looking at a potential, up to a potential 10% increase in some of those just goods that you buy on a regular basis. Additionally, if you're a mom or a dad or an aunt, uncle, or grandparent or nana, whatever it might be, it's toys, it's baby products, car seats, stuff like that, baby gear. So much of that is made in China, and with China, we're facing potentially a 30% tariff if nothing changes. So again, that's something that you really want to look into, potentially buying now instead of waiting. So if you're if you're a grandparent, you have a child having a baby, you're going to be a grandparent, and you want to help them get situated, and you want to buy them a car seat, and the baby's not due until November or December, maybe now's the right time to buy that car seat and then put it away and give it to them at the baby shower, after the baby, however you want to do it, but give it to them then. Same if you've got if you're going to be buying little kids' toys at Christmas, maybe now's a good time to get it. One, you get ahead of the Christmas rush so things don't sell out, but also you're going to end up paying less now than you would later. A lot of that's true for the stuff you're going to be buying over the summer for your summer trips, for camping trips or hiking. A lot of the small electronics, flashlights, headlamps, off-brand hammocks, off-brand stuff off Amazon, for example, then those are things that you might want to consider buying sooner than later. Additional areas that are really susceptible to this particular price fluctuation that we're talking about is electronics, consumer electronics, phones, watches, TVs, all those types of things that you might want to get at Christmas. Those are things you might want to consider getting sooner than that and trying to avoid some of those additional tariffs before they hit. Now, we don't have a huge window before these prices are going to start climbing. I really don't think we have beyond a couple of weeks, maybe into early June at the latest, before we're going to start seeing significant price increases. Other areas that they're talking about price increases, we're talking furniture, patio, home decor, like knick-knack type stuff that your spouse might just really love. Those things might be going up in price as well. Apparel, accessories, cheap, cosmetic jewelry type stuff, clothes and shoes. And so if you're looking at your kid going back to school in the fall, maybe you want to pick up your school stuff now. Maybe you want to get their back to school shoes and back to school clothes now, and then put them away in a closet and save them for when they go back to school, not wear them out over summer. Trust me, I'm a parent. I know how that goes. But if you start getting it now and then just, start spending some now. I mean, I know you may not be in a position to go drop everything that you need for back to school right now, but maybe you could start doing half of it now, and at least half of the stuff that you bought at a little bit of a discount. Buy in bulk. When I go to the grocery store and my wife says get a small pack of pepperoni because the kids like to have pepperoni on their sandwiches. And so instead of buying the little pack of pepperoni, I get the big pack of pepperoni, which ends up saving me substantially over the course of a couple of weeks. Instead of buying one of those small things every week, big thing lasts a lot longer and it was a lot cheaper. Additional things you can do is look for U.S. sourcing. If you're going to pay an inflated price for imported meat from Australia or Canada or wherever you might be buying some beef from, instead of paying the inflated price that had to go have that additional tariff, how much more would it be to actually go to a local butcher or to go to a local rancher and actually buy a half cow and get that, or quarter cow, and get that processed and put into your deep freezer. Other things to consider are to lower your expectations just a little bit on the higher priced items. If you're looking at buying that very, very, very nice, some super nice brand of baby car seat, maybe you just get a Graco car seat. And so even though you're still paying inflated prices for the Graco car seat, your actual out of pocket is much more in line with what you were more comfortable paying. The last thing that I would highly recommend is to actually be paying attention to this. I know a lot of you out there aren't really in political animals. You don't really want to stay informed in politics or tied to it too closely, and it's a lot of noise. I totally get it, but watch the tariff headlines. Watch what's going on with the tariff war with China. Watch what's going on with Ukraine, Taiwan, some of those other places, hot spots in the world that can really affect oil prices and consumer prices and the prices that you pay, because it does affect you. And what that's going to do is, if you see more noise, you see more kind of tumultuous things happening, then maybe take the opportunity the next time you're in the grocery store to stock up a little bit more, or to buy in bulk instead of the smaller packaging. Maybe not buy that unnecessary item, recognizing that in a couple of months you might need that money for something that's much more critical. So anyway, that's what's going on. Walmart is warning about higher prices. Other companies are following line, saying, yeah, we're going to have to raise prices. We're going to do the best we can to try to not make it too painful. But I think there's going to be some pain. And I think that's something that we all need to be aware of. And to watch our spending this summer and late spring and summer and into the fall, and be very, very strategic and thoughtful in how we use our money and how we keep our budgets. Anyway, hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you so much to our Patreon community for your continued support. We'll see you next time.